all people have proclivities or towards different sins, different things that we would call sins.
Yeah, but if that's like their fundamental attractiveness, they're attracted fundamentally to other men, like, or other women. Like, why? It seems like something that God gave them. Like, why would God give you an attractiveness, or why would you be attracted to the same sex if that was morally reprehensible, if that was against God's will? Why would he instill that lust and that desire and that feeling of being attracted and feeling of being in love with someone of the same sex? When people talk about aliens and alien like, what would aliens be doing here? Why would they do? What if human beings are the product of accelerated evolution? Like, what if they came down here, they found this incredibly rich planet that's filled with biodiversity and all these different life forms, and then they found these primates. And like, oh, we know where these fuckers are going. Like, this is us 10 billion years ago, or whatever the fuck it is. Let's accelerate this little party. Let's inject some of our super advanced DNA into these primates, and let's see where it takes itself. 6,000 BC, an image from a clay tablet of a very large being that has a very small human-like being with a monkey tail on its lap. And this is what Sitchin points to as some sort of a depiction of the genetic engineering that took place to turn primitive primates into human beings.
Morning till night. You wake up, you hunt for food, you get home, celebration, everyone's happy that the men brought the food back, the women, gathered the berries. We have a big dinner celebration because every meal you got to be grateful for. Dance party by the fire, and you're out. A couple fart jokes and you're out. Repeat the next day. There's no time to be like bored and sad and upset.
So I decided, let's ask about religion. And I ask out, is there a heaven? And it knocks 3 times, meaning no. And at that point, our 2 religious friends that were there immediately jumped up and said, we have to leave right now.
We had no idea why.
Why? What's going on? I'll tell you in the car, dude, just don't look back. Let's go. Let's leave. And so we walked out. We left. We got all the way to the car without anyone saying anything. And as soon as we got in the car, we're like, what's going on? Why do we have to leave? He's like, well, in the Christian religion, anything demonic or evil is supposed to basically disprove that there is a heaven. And so what they were saying is we don't think this is some spirit or something paranormal there. We think it was something that was trying to lead you away from heaven or Christianity. Demonic terror.
Imagine you're walking on planet Earth and you pass by someone. You say, hey, can you point me in the direction of north? I want to walk in the northward direction. But when you get to the North Pole and talk to somebody there and say, hey, how do I go further north? They look at you and say, whoa. That question doesn't mean anything because this is where north begins. There's no notion of going further north than the North Pole. And it could be that spatial metaphor applies to time. Talk about 1 billion years ago or 10 billion years ago, but if you go to 13.8 billion years ago, the Big Bang, that may be where time started. And you can't go further back in time than the very origin of time itself.
That freaks me out.
I lived for 2 weeks in the bottom of the sea.
Oh, Jesus.
The scariest thing I saw, one night I was taking a dump. The way you do this, if you have to go number 2, you go into the pool, and there's what we call a gazebo, which is just a little dome that has air inside. And then you just go down, and you have to swim, I don't know, it's maybe 10, 15 feet. It's not that far. With no tank, and you're 60 feet down, it's night. You can't see a thing. You're alone in the ocean. And then you hold on, and you just take off your trunks, and you just let it rip. And then you finish, and you put your mask back on. And I took a big breath, and I went down, and I opened my eyes in my mask in the darkness with my flashlight, and I saw, right in front of me, this huge eyeball, the size of a saucer this big, staring, unblinking right at me. And I freaked out. I just tore off for the pool and the habitat. I jumped in there, I surfaced, I'm screaming. And my crew come running like I've been bit by a shark or something.
What was it?
It was a Goliath grouper.
Oh, I've seen those things before. They're enormous.
Size of a cow.
There's been some interesting studies done on the faces of giant statues. One in particular is the face of Ramses. There's a statue at Luxor, and it's perfect. You can't achieve that degree of symmetry just by eyeballing it and doing it by hand.
It's virtual perfection.
Take a copy of that photo, bang on, like very front on, and then you flip it. It's perfectly symmetrical, left to right. It's also not something that is done in artwork. So, people often say, well, Michelangelo, he carved David. It's a beautiful statue. I've seen it. It's incredible, but it's human. It's not symmetrical.
What's the explanation for this that modern archaeologists use?
They did it by hand, right?
They
That's
do
what
it by
claim.
hand. That's literally what they say. You just don't, they're not engineers and construction experts at the end of the day. That's the problem. You can't achieve that degree of symmetry just by doing it by hand.
There was a guy that used to run around the lake and talk to us when we were fishing, probably like 13. Seemed like an old gentleman. This dude just becomes my friend. I even went to his house once. And then one day, he tells me he loves me. I said something like, yeah, I really like you too. He goes, there can't be love without sex. I thought this guy just liked me. I was his buddy. Then I had my hand on a Swiss Army knife. And all I was thinking is, I hope I don't have to fucking try to use this. He was a big guy. I was 13, weighed 120 pounds or something. I'm like, fuck, this guy might beat the shit out of me and rape me here in the woods. I told him to get the fuck away from me, and he told me to not be upset. I got away. He didn't want to be violent. He wanted to trick me into fucking him. I got real lucky that was the case. Conor talks shit to people and with their head. I mean, it's a giant part of his game. Seeing Conor throw the dolly at the bus and the screaming and yelling, shattering in the window, all these guys running and screaming, get off the bus. And the UFC used that to sell that fight. This is all not what Khabib does. He's very respectful, but not Conor. Conor was saying to him, this is just business. It's just business. And he's like, let's talk now. Let's talk now. With Khabib, he's like, I can't wait to get my hands on you. When I'm on top of you and you're tired and I'm beating the out of you, that's when we're going to talk. And that's what he did.